These old mountains, on a hot summer's day, you look off at them, they don't call these the Smoky Mountains for nothing. Look at the haze. It's 90 degrees down low in the summer, so hot you can't stand it, but it's 20 degrees cooler on top of these old Smokies. And they're so beautiful. And you head back in these little hollers, there's always a cool breeze blowing along these creeks, waterways. So relaxing just to sit beside one of them and let time go by. But there's things in these mountains that we don't understand. But this video's not about this. This little video is about things that we know is there. And sometimes we encounter the local inhabitants of these mountains, and we have to deal with it. One such story is from an old friend John here that I've been sharing his story. He liked to fish in these Smoky Mountains, and he had an encounter with a bear. So I'm going to share that. So welcome to another story of Tales of the Appalachians. Well, I sat down here with old John. He told me so many stories of the mountain mysteries and the history and the strange things in these old mountains. Him and his people are from the Cage Cove in these Smoky Mountains, and they share a lot of history. And this is another good little story of a bear encounter he had while he loved to fish these streams in these mountains. So I sat down with him and let him share his story. Now, John, you done a lot of hunting and fishing growing up too, from your grandpa, your dad. You done a lot on your own with your friends as time went on. You tell me a little old story about you trout fished a lot up here in these old creeks and stuff, catching trout. There's no bear trying to take your fish from you. You want to share that story?
Yeah, that's the only trouble I've ever had with anything out in the woods. And 9 times out of 10, if bears was like they was during Grandpa and Daddy and them's times, a bear's just like a gray squirrel or a rabbit. It sees a man, it'll run off.
Yeah.
You know, they'll just run. They don't want nothing to do with you. The only way you can get in a mess with a bear is if one had little ones and you got between it and its young or got too close. But now these bears, they're not afraid of people. They come around to picnic grounds and people just back off and they take over, and people throw them feed out of the car and stuff too, and they're used to people. Well, me and this buddy of mine, we went up there at the head of Tremont, up past Walker Valley, where old Bill Walker settled out in there. You go up there and that's been logged. You go up there to the head of Tremont, and these 2 creeks comes together, Lynn Camp and Sam's Creek. And these trails you can walk, used to be railroad beds when they logged. Well, you go up Sam's Creek, just a little piece up that trail, and there's a little creek comes in called Thunderhead Creek. And you can fish it. It's a climb up through there. That creek drops a lot, but they used to be good fishing. Well, we was going to go up there and we was going to catch a limit up at Fish a piece, and we was going to take them to this old man that, well, it's actually that old man that thinks he's seen the Bigfoot. Him and his wife, they liked them little trout. Well, we was allowed 5 apiece. We was going to catch 10 and clean them and take them back to him and his wife. Well, we fished up Thunderhead Creek, and we caught a limit of keeper fish. Well, we had to quit. So we got off over there out of the creek and got over there and hit that old railroad bed. And we come back down there. We come back down there to where that creek dumps back into Sam's Creek, right where we started fishing, and there's an old trestle went across that creek, and it's pretty high up above the creek. But anyway, we stopped right there and we cleaned our fish in that creek. And we put them back in bags and put them in our bag jar. And I told my buddy, I said, we didn't fish none below this trestle here. I said, fish a hole or two there and see if there's anything below here before it dumps into Sam's Creek. And I said, we won't keep them, you know, because we done got our limit. We won't keep them. But anyway, he got down there and I was standing up in the trail and I was going to watch for anybody to come through because I didn't want to get us caught fishing because we already had our limit.
Yeah.
And I was going to let him know and he could quit. But we wasn't planning on keeping anymore. But anyway, he was down there fishing and I was watching him and he looked up at me and he pointed down the creek. Well, I looked down the creek below him and I guess maybe down there 60, 75 yards, there sat a bear in the middle of the creek on a rock watching him. And it was just sitting there watching him. Well, in a few minutes it got off that rock and it waded back over to the bank. And I couldn't see it when it got in the bushes. And I was sitting there watching. In a minute, here it come back out there and it got on that rock again. And my buddy, he was sitting there looking at it down there. And that thing throwed its nose up in there and it was curling its lip up and it could smell where we cleaned them fish. Well, it got back up on the bank again and I couldn't see it. Well, my buddy, here he come out of the creek up there and he said, we're going to have to fight that bear. He said, that thing's coming up here. I said, we can't fight a bear. He said, it's either that or get eat up, I guess. He said, it's coming up here. Smells them fish, I guess. Well, we picked us up a few rocks there and we're standing in the trail. Well, here that thing come up beside the creek up that bank. There was a bank right there at the edge of the trail. And it wasn't 10 foot from us. That bear come right up that bank and stuck its head up over it, and boy, it was a smelling. Well, we throwed some rocks at it and it run off down our little piece, maybe 15 yards. Here it turned, it come right back again. Come up there and we rocked it and it run off down there. Here it come right back. We run it off again. It went way down below there and it got in the trail below us and it started coming up that trail toward us. We throwed some rocks at it and it run back off in the woods. Well, we was about out of rocks. My buddy said, he said, I had a rock or two and then there was a big rock laying there. I guess it was half again as big as a softball. And I had it laying there, but it's so big I knowed I couldn't throw it. But anyway, he said, I'm going to go down here and get us some more rocks out of the creek. He said, we'll try to get out of here. So he got off there. Well, that bear was down below me, and it was pretty steep going off there. And I was standing on the edge of that road, and he hadn't started back up there yet. He was walking crossways down there, and I guess he was 20 yards below me. But it was so steep there, I had that great old big rock in my hand, and I thought, I'll throw this at him. All I could do is just lob it, you know. Well, I just lobbed that rock up in the air, and it went sailing down there. And it was so steep, it didn't have to go that far, and it hit that bear right in the side of the head. And it sounded like you'd hit a light pole with a ball bat. Boy, down the creek it went, just a flying. My buddy come back up there and he said, where's that thing at now? And I said, I may have run it off. I said, I hit it right in the side of the head. It's that big old rock laying here. He said, well, boys, I hope you did. He said, I hope they yelled.
He didn't want no more of that.
Yeah, he didn't want no more of that, and he left. But he gave me some rocks, and I got some. We didn't have far to go down there to where we was parked, down that trail, till we come to the parking area. But he said, I'll get behind, and he said, I'll watch behind us, and he said, you watch out in front of us. And we didn't see no more of it.
Yeah, that changed his mind, didn't it?
Yeah, that big rock.
So it
had to hurt. That had to hurt. It wasn't a great big bear, but now that thing, he meant to get our fish.
He wanted them fish that he'd been getting them before.
Yeah, he meant to get them. But I never had no trouble with that, anything out like that. My daddy hadn't either, but he got run out of there. He went up there one time in their old home site and walked up that holler behind it. All he had was a stick. An old snake catcher he'd made out of a stick was a string, and it had a rubber tip on it. He used it like a walking stick. He said he sat down on the side of the trail up that holler above where they lived, sat down on the bank, and he heard something coming off the mountain over there. And he said he thought it was a hog. And he said when it got down there where he could see it, it was a bear. And it got in that old trail and started down toward him. He thought, well, it ain't seen me yet or smelt me or it'd be gone. And he said he kept coming down there and just had its head down walking. He said it got pretty close to him. He said it got then about 25 yards, and he said, I stood up and hollered at it, and he said it never paid no attention to him. He said it kept coming, and he said it got too close for comfort, and he said, I run forward, run at it, and he said, I hit a bush with that snake catcher there, and he said, I broke the end off of it. And he said, hollered at that thing, and he said, it never let on. It just still was walking down that trail right at him. He said it wasn't 20 yards from him. And he said he turned and run. He didn't know what to think, if it's crazy or what. Said he run down through there about 100 yards, and he looked back and didn't see nothing of it. And he come in, and he had his old snake catcher, and the end of it was all busted up. Well, a few years after that, he took me back in there. And we walked up that little old trail, and he told me, he's standing there looking around. Of course, it was all growed up from what it was when he was a kid. But he said, I believe right here's where I encountered that bear that day. And he said, he'd come off the hill right over there. Well, I was looking around there, and there was that little white rubber tip laying there in the leaves off of his snake catcher.
What's the odds of finding it?
What's the odds of finding it? I picked it up, and I said, right there's the end off your snake catcher. He looked at it, and he said, sure enough, he said, I broke the end off of it right here. He just hung it up on a little stick and left it, But
what about that? Yeah, them bear, they ain't afraid of nobody anymore down there. These people, they need to make them afraid of them.
Yeah.
People get hurt and mauled up by them. And these tourists come into Cage Cove. Oh man, they're really bad.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
Yeah, they don't know the danger.
Well, there you go. He shared so many stories. And thank you so much, John, for these little stories. So many yet to tell. But I hope you enjoyed this. But these bear and these Great Smoky Mountains, they're still wild animals. And they're so beautiful to watch. You see them at a distance. They see them around this Cage Cove loop, and you be stopped for miles in this hot weather, wondering what's going on up in front of you. But anyway, these bears are so beautiful, but they are wild. Whatever you do, don't try to approach them. Give them their distance, enjoy them at a distance, and whatever you do, don't never feed one of these bears, because the rule is, usually a fed bear is a dead bear. As time goes on, they become a big nuisance. So remember this when you're visiting the park. Give them their space and enjoy them. So I hope you enjoy this video. God bless, and I'll see you next time.